how's it going? Coming to y'all to get another guitar review, another acoustic guitar, and this time we're looking at one by Ovation. Now this is a 1990 Ovation Celebrity CC57. Okay, so this is no longer currently in production like probably almost everything that I own and review, but you can still find them abundantly online for pretty cheap. And when I say cheap, I mean like $200 or less. Okay, so keep that in mind as I go through this video. Also, there have been a number of modifications made to these over the years. This is one of the early examples with the very simple electronic system. We'll get into that later. But later versions did have like a full-blown preamp. So, my usual disclaimer, if you are here for a shut up and play kind of video, this is not going to be for you. You'll want to click away because this is not a guitar demonstration video. This is a guitar review video where I'm going to talk probably at length for over 20 minutes about the guitar, what I think about it, who I think it's for, what I personally think of the tone, and giving you the specs, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, that's the main purpose of this. Now, this guitar, like many of my guitars, has a bit of a story behind it, and it's not the happiest story, but it's not the saddest story either, and that is that this guitar belonged to my ex-wife. We separated in January of this year, 2023, and there's a whole story behind that I'm not going to get into here. I've written several songs about it that you can find here on the channel. But basically, whenever we'd first met, one of the things we bonded over was our love of Ovation guitars, because I had my beloved 1862 Custom Balladeer, which I'll do a review on sometime in the future, and she had this. And, you know, we kind of bonded over that and started talking and eventually started dating, and the very first photo we took together is of us standing in front of Hastings, I know, rest in peace Hastings, holding our Ovation guitars. And Ovation's Facebook page even shared the photo at one point. It was kind of a cool thing. And after the divorce, you know, she ended up leaving it behind and made no attempts to collect it, so it's mine now. And I've been doing my best to get it as playable as humanly possible, and disclaimer, that's taken quite a bit of work. The truss rod needed a lot of adjustment, the saddle needed a lot of adjustment. I had to even shave the bridge itself down to get the action to where it's even kind of playable, and to be honest, the action's still fairly high for my liking on this guitar now, but I have made the guitar playable. Okay, the thing you have to know about these Celebrities is these were Ovation's cheapest guitars that were still labeled Ovation. Okay, in order to go cheaper than the Celebrities, you have to go to the Applauses. So this is pretty much a bottom end or low end Ovation model. But I don't think it's a bad guitar by any stretch. Okay, Ovations are known for a number of problems, the action raising pretty high on them being one of them. So that's nothing out of the ordinary. Bridge lift is another, and this has, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, maybe, maybe not, but it does have a bit of bridge lift in here. And eventually I'm going to need to go in here and undo the bolts that are holding the bridge down, because, yes, underneath those two mother of pearl caps, there are two bolts that are running into the body of the guitar. And I'm going to have to rip those bolts out and remove the bridge and re-glue the bridge and re-bolt the bridge. And that'll fix that problem. And then the final problem they're known for is cracks forming, which you can see there in the center. Okay, cracks forming, sometimes it's just the finish. And in this case, this one is just the finish. It doesn't run down to the wood, which is nice. Sometimes it's the entire top splitting, and there's a number of reasons that they can do that. The first being that the top is wood, okay, and wood expands and contracts with different weather. The body, or the back and sides, are one of two materials, okay. You can either get Lyrachord or Lyramold on some of the older versions, and they're basically the same thing. They are an injection molded fiberglass synthetic material. The thing about that is it doesn't move, okay, so no matter what the change in weather, this bowl is going nowhere. So while the top is trying to grow and shrink, it's pulling and pushing on that bowl, and it's not giving any way to move, and that can cause splits to form in the top of your guitar. Okay, the other cause behind splits and cracks, and in this case it's actually a perfect example of it, is during all that shifting, you can see how that crack lines directly up with one of those bolts. And yeah, as it tries to grow and tries to warp, it tries to pull part of the top, and that bolt doesn't let go either, and it can cause a split. It is a known problem with Ovation guitars. And by the way, Ovation is honestly probably my favorite guitar company. I love their guitars. I love the way they sound, the way they play, the way they feel. There's just something special about Ovation to me, but I'm not blind to their faults. Okay, so I still want to put that out there. I'm not saying that Ovations are the best guitars in the world, just that they're probably my favorite guitars in the world. And they come with a list of downsides you should be aware of. Now, you can largely alleviate this if you keep the guitar in climate-controlled environments pretty much at all times. You know, keep a humidifier in the case or keep your room very well humidified and regulated, and you shouldn't have too many of these issues. But most used Ovations you're going to buy are going to have some form of crack or bridge lift or high action or what have you. Now, there is still one step I can go through to set this up better, and that would be to take the neck off and to shim it and put it back on. And all Ovation necks are bolt-ons. Every single Ovation has a bolt-on neck. So you'd have to reach in through the sound hole, and on the underside, right along here, okay, there's going to be 2 bolts connecting the bowl to the neck. And you can just undo those bolts, rip the neck out, shim it up, put the neck back on, re-secure those bolts, and that will will lower your action because it's raising your neck to kind of meet the gap in the strings. Haven't done that yet. It's kind of a last resort. What I have done is I have shaved this saddle to virtually nothing, as you can see there. Like, I barely have a break angle on this thing at this point. But I do have it to where I can play it semi-comfortably. So that's pretty much your risk of downsides and risks with Ovation guitars. So keep that in mind if you're looking at not just this model, but any Ovation. You really do have to take care of them. So what's the upside? The incredibly unique sound, the amazing necks on these things. Like, Ovation necks feel honestly so freaking good. These are some of the best guitar necks on any acoustic I've ever played. And if you're an electric player, then these necks are going to feel great for you because they feel very similar to an electric guitar neck. Not to the same level as like Fender acoustics and Ibanez acoustics, but they are close to that. And they're kind of like a hybrid between an acoustic neck and an electric neck, which makes them great for lead players, honestly. They also have the tone that you cannot get out of an all-wood guitar, which we'll get to when I give some more acoustic demonstrations of the guitar. So on this one in particular, because I feel like I barely talked about the guitar itself, we have a laminated spruce top, Lyrachord or Lyramold. I believe it's Lyrachord on this one for the bowl, and this is a super shallow bowl, so essentially Ovation's equivalent to a thin line. But don't worry, that does not mean these things are quiet. Even the super shallows are about as loud as a dreadnought, as you can see there. This one is in natural. You can get these in all sorts of colors. Okay, I've seen them in sunbursts, black, cherry red. I've even seen these in snakeskin, which is super cool, by the way. I love the weird and wacky guitars, and those snakeskin celebrities are dope. We have this big plastic rosette around the sound hole there, which looks fantastic. We have a rosewood bridge and a rosewood fingerboard with mother of pearl diamond inlay, okay, which is actually a pretty nice feature. This was seen in everything from the Celebrity all the way up to like the Balladeers and the Legends, which were their super high-end guitars at the time. So this has the same fretboard inlay, which is really nice. We do have a plastic nut and saddle, and I can confirm it's plastic after shaving that saddle. So you could upgrade this by putting in bone, but the saddles are a bit hard to replace as they are somewhat proprietary to Ovation. Their designs are pretty unique. You could always make one. But the nut would be very easy to replace. Okay, mahogany neck. Already mentioned how great the neck feels. We have Ping tuning machines on here. Now, Ping gets a lot of flack from people. They immediately feel the need to replace them, and in some cases I get it because Ping makes some really, really bad tuners, but they also make some really nice tuners and some pretty, middle-end tuners. And that's what these are. These are like on the middle-end side of tuners for Ping. Okay, they're perfectly fine. They hold tune pretty well. They turn smoothly and nicely. If you're hating on Ping, but you buy Taylor and Martin guitars, the lower-end Taylors and Martins, those Taylor and Martin branded tuners are Pings. Okay, yeah, eventually Martin goes up to Grover and Waverly on their nicer guitars, and Taylor moves up to Gotoes, but those enclosed tuning machines that have the same casing as this, guess what? Yeah, they're Ping. They are known and confirmed to be Ping tuning machines. And by the way, Ping also makes Grover. So there's very little difference between the gears used on these Pings and a set of, lower to middle end Grovers, like I said, a Grover Rotomatics. It's virtually the same machine in a different housing. So, if you're going to hate on Ping, you have to realize what that comes with. They're not bad machines. Now again, Ping does make some really cheap machines. They won't even brand as their own machines. Those are typically pretty awful and can be replaced. But these are honestly solid, and I see no reason to ever replace them. Okay, we have the typical Ovation headstock, which is a point of contention. Some people love it, some people hate it. I personally love the Ovation headstock, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that it is a bitch to get a clip-on tuner to stick onto these headstocks. You can try, but inevitably, whenever you're tuning, the vibrations always cause them to slide back like so. And I always end up getting frustrated and taking my clip-on tuners and kind of finagling them around the strings, like so, and putting them in my sound hole and tuning that way. So what you're really better off with is an actual sound hole tuner, because these headstocks are not a great design for a clip-on tuner. Okay? Again, pure honesty. I think it looks cool, I think it looks unique, and we honestly get a fairly straight string pull, which helps with tuning stability quite a bit. But it's a design that not everyone is overly fond of. So, you win some, you lose some. It really does come down to personal preference. Scale length is 25.25 inches. Nut width is 1 11/16 inches. Anything on the specs that I'm forgetting to mention? Oh yeah, we got to talk about the electronics. So this one, again, being an earlier one, has a very simple volume and tone knob. That's it. No preamp system, no built-in tuner, no treble, bass, mid control. It's all rolled into tone. And again, there's your volume. It's all the electronics you get here. And then it has what they call the Piezoelectric Undersaddle pickup, which is basically just a pretty generic piezo pickup. And I have to be completely honest, in this older Celebrity, I don't like the electronics in here. I think it sounds harsh, and I think it sounds brittle. But I'll link in the description where you can hear the guitar plugged in and you can judge for yourself. I don't like how the electronics in this guitar sound myself, but maybe you will. I will say that for lead, the electronics could be really nice because they will punch a lot. They will penetrate the sound of an acoustic guitar really, really nicely because it is so bright. And it is so harsh that it could be great for a lead situation, but I don't like strumming this thing when it's plugged in. I think it just doesn't have a very balanced tone, no matter how I adjust that tone knob. Now, I can do it on the PA system or the acoustic amp, but I'd rather have a guitar that has better controls myself. But that said, later versions of this guitar did have a full-blown preamp system, and that will be 100% the strictly better version of this guitar. Being honest with you guys here, it would be the better version of the guitar. And I'm not trying to bash the guitar because I like the guitar, and I have sentimental value attached to the guitar, but it's a review, and I've got to give it to you straight in a review. So, yeah. Next up, there's our output jack on the back there, and I'm not a huge fan of where Ovation likes to always place these jacks on these shallow bowls. On some of their deeper bowl stuff, like I have an Ovation Applause AE40 bass, and it has its output jack down here, which is a much smarter design. When they have the output jack on the back like this, and my Balladeer does this too, you really do want to use an elbow jack to put it in here. Otherwise, it's just going to be a bit uncomfortable, especially if you have a bit of a gut and you're playing on stage. It can bump right into you. So, not a huge fan of that, but the strap buttons on here are great, and they are properly placed. So there's our strap button at the bottom, and our strap button at the top. So this hangs and balances beautifully. Again, they did not do something stupid like stick it back here. I hate when guitar companies do that. I mean, I'd rather have that than no strap button, but this is a great strap button placement, and it really does hang comfortably on your neck all night long. We have some purfling along the body of the guitar, well, on the top of the guitar, I should say, and we have this cream wood binding running alongside the side of the guitar and the neck of the guitar. And I know it's wood because the binding is shrinking a bit. So, I don't know if you can hear that. That's the sound of my fingernail catching on the neck where the binding is shrinking a bit. So, kind of an annoyance. Not a huge deal though. We do have our dot markers on the side, as you can see there. So it is pretty easy to tell where we're at all times when we're playing. Where is this guitar made? Korea. This one is made in Korea. Later versions were made in China. Which ones are better? Well, the later versions have the better electronics. I'm going to say the later Chinese versions are the better ones. But it has nothing to do with the country of origin. It just happens to do with the parts that were used when they transferred from one factory to another. As a general rule, Korean guitars tend to be pretty well built, in my opinion. But I can also say that a lot of Chinese guitars I've played have been really well built, and I played bad guitars from both countries. I played bad guitars from America. Where a guitar is made really doesn't mean all that much. Okay, how it sounds is what really matters from a playing perspective. From an investment perspective, collectible perspective, sure. But from a pure player perspective, I care about the feel and the sound above all else. So how does this super budget, low-end Ovation sound? And you can get these again for like $200 all day now. So keep that in mind. First thing I'm going to say is it is loud. It is loud. The Lyrachord bowls on these Ovation guitars just cause them to have so much punch. And the basic reason for that is the majority of your sound from a guitar is going to be generated by the top of the guitar. Okay, obviously your strings, your saddle, your nut, those all make a difference. But the top of the guitar is called the soundboard for a reason. And it is one of the most important parts about your sound. Second place being your bracing. And by the way, this does have a more modern X bracing as compared to something like the Balladeer, which I'll get into in its own review, that has something called a modified A bracing, which is like a hybrid between fan and ladder bracing. It's really weird. More traditional X bracing on this particular guitar top, but your sound is generated by the top of your guitar and by the strings. The back and sides of a guitar mostly serve to push that sound out of the sound hole and to redirect it out. Well, when you have a bowl like this that isn't braced, that sound is able to just kind of be captured and pushed off the bowl the entire time it's inside. And unlike wood, this bowl isn't going to be absorbing that sound pretty much at all. So almost all of your sound and all of your reverberation from that top vibrating is going to be pushed right out of the sound hole here. And as a result, it is very, very loud. Even louder if we don't hold it against our body while we're playing. Like if I put it up against my fat stomach and play, it's still loud, but if I pull it away from my fat stomach, it's even louder. Okay, that is just kind of a thing with these guitars. They have volume. Now, as far as the tone itself, it's up to you if you like the tone or don't like the tone. I'm never going to mention that I think that a guitar has too much bass or lacking mid responses, because if I say that, then, or anything like that, then it puts that idea into the viewer's head and can kind of artificially influence what they're hearing, and I don't like that. I want you to judge for yourself how the guitar sounds. And let's go ahead and play it so you can hear. Ovations really do have a sound unlike any other guitar on the market. They just have a very unique, very loud, very punchy tone. But also, because you don't have a tone wood on the back and side, you do have that synthetic material with a natural top. The combination of sound is hard to replicate from anyone else unless they're just started copying this material combination. So that was some strumming. Let's do some picking. some finger picking. I will say that I personally feel like finger picking is one really strong suit for Ovation guitars. I've always loved the way they sound when finger picked because they still sound clear and beautiful to my ear, but they also don't suffer from volume like so many guitars do. Because you can play a guitar that sounds amazing, but when you're finger picking it, it tends to be a little harder to hear, especially when you have other players in the room playing different instruments, whereas Ovations tend to still be very loud for all those reasons we mentioned before. Let's see. I'm not a lead player by any means, so I can't really give this a good lead demonstration, but definitely detuned that G string by bending it so suddenly. By the way, the strings on here are D'Addario XS Phosphor Bronze Custom Lights. That is 11 through 52s. Fantastic strings that I've been using on pretty much all my guitars now. They've almost replaced Elixirs for me. I'll still use Elixir. I still love Elixir. But these are just as good, if not possibly a bit better. So that's the strings that are on here, because if I don't mention it, someone's going to ask. Doing things higher on the fretboard on this guitar is a bit harder because, again, our action is high towards the bottom of the neck there. But it's not so much that it's harder, it's just that it's a little bit more awkward and uncomfortable. Like, it doesn't hurt my fingers to do this, but it does take more pressure, and so it's not quite as natural feeling. Anyways, I've detuned this thing all to hell now. But that has been my review on the Ovation CC57 Celebrity. Who do I recommend this guitar for? Simply put, it's a great couch guitar. I think Ovations actually make for pretty nice recording guitars, especially if they're just mic'd up, because they do have a great tone, in my opinion. They make great garage band musician guitars, great bar band musician guitars. Are they a guitar that I recommend, taking on the road with you? Not particularly, just because they are a bit more fragile in that sense. These tops do just love to crack and split. So I have a hard time recommending this to someone who's going to be in non-climate controlled environments frequently. I know people have toured with Ovations, I understand that, but my recommendation would be to probably not do so. At least not with this Ovation. Maybe if you get one of the like carbon fiber top ones, those would be fine. Because obviously the carbon fiber is not going to give two damns about the weather. But with these wood top Ovations, I can't really, in all good consciousness, recommend them as a touring musician's axe. They're more so great for the casual musician, the bar band musician, the couch musician, things like that. Do they make good beginner guitars? Yes, absolutely. Ovations, especially when they're new Ovations have beautiful setups and low action because they are geared towards beginners, and they're geared towards ease of playability. Not so much geared towards beginners, but they aim to be as comfortable and easy to play as possible. So when they're new, these things, I have yet to see a new Ovation that didn't have beautiful low action, genuinely. And they are comfortable. Now, when I say that, I'm referring to these super shallow bowls. The deep bowl Ovations are a bit harder to play because they like to slide off your knee, but this doesn't have any such problems. So, great beginner guitar, great couch musician's guitar, great bar band musician's guitar, good recording guitar, not so much a great professional gigging roading guitar. So, hopefully you have enjoyed my video review on the Ovation CC57 Celebrity. If you have, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next time. Peace, and take care.